Welcome to the Sewer Authority Midcoastside Board of Directors meeting for Monday, March 14th, 2022. Could I please have a roll call?
Director Dye?
Here.
Director Lohman?
Here.
Director Clark?
Here.
Director Radback for
Here.
Director Penrose?
Here.
Director Slater Carter?
Present.
Chair Rada?
Here. Welcome. Okay, so we can move on to item 1B, which is March employee anniversaries.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chair. We have 2 employees having their anniversaries in this month. The first one is Tim Costello, who completes 34 years of service in SAN.
Wow.
Followed by Angelo, who completes 2 years service in SAN. So I'll pass it over to Susie, who will say a few words about Tim Costello.
Don't give me that look, Tim. Okay, so Tim started his journey at SAM in April of 1987 as a temporary part-time general grounds maintenance and operator in training. And in 1988, he became a temporary full-time employee. And shortly after that, he was hired as a full-time employee. He's worked collections, been an operator in training. He's passed his grade 1 and became a certified operator grade 1 and worked his way to becoming a grade 5 certified operator, which I believe is the highest grade 1 can achieve. In 2007, he was voted onto the board of the Santa Clara section of the CWEA as a first-year director, held every position of the CWEA board, including treasurer, vice chair, and chair. In 2010, he received the Operator of the Year award from the Santa Clara Valley section of the CWEA, and shortly after receiving the award, he attained his grade 3 state of California operator license and was promoted to a certified operator position. He obtained a CWEA laboratory analyst grade 1, a CWEA environmental compliance inspector grade 1, and was inducted into the CWEA Select Society of Sanitary Sludge Shovelers. And I'd like all of you to say that really fast. Okay, Tim has been the shop steward, safety coordinator, and at one point figured out a way to decant water out of the scum pit to reduce the amount of water that would otherwise pump into the digester on a daily basis when the primary clarifiers are skimmed. He's been a plant tour guide during Sewer Sciences Week, as well as presenting the students with information about where it goes when you flush, facts that I'm sure they will remember whenever they flush. Tim is always on hand to offer opinions and suggestions whenever changes or upgrades of any kind are considered to better the function of the plant, even when his opinions and suggestions are not needed. Tim has assumed responsibility for going out and collecting ocean samples with the San Mateo County Harbor District for regulatory compliance monitoring. Tim is always available when unexpected emergencies happen. Tim has taken many correspondence courses on wastewater treatment plants. Tim is a certified forklift operator and has conducted forklift training, and currently he is the supervisor of treatment and field operations. Not only does he see the daily routine at the plant, or oversees the daily routine at the plant, he does the NPDES reporting, biosolids reporting, he reports to the regulatory agencies, he does county reports, volumetric reporting, air quality correspondence, Alpha Labs correspondence, SSO reporting, and a special waste profile recertification. And after all of that, he still finds time to swim with the sharks. Tim, your sense of humor keeps us going and keeps us entertained. Our office just wouldn't be the same without your quirky comments and your occasional strange outfits of the day. We had some pictures to show everyone, but we had some technical difficulty. so we couldn't show the pictures.
Probably good.
Uh-oh. Wait. what?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Hang on.
Sorry. No, okay.
Let's hang on just 1 second.
No. It didn't come through. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I just got a couple more sentences. I'm not sure if everyone is really aware of the weight of the pressure you carry on your shoulders, Tim, so I'm letting you know. And everyone else, that your hard work and dedication to Sam goes above and beyond. You are definitely one of a kind, and we all wish you the best.
Yay,
Ta-da. I wish we could have the pictures.
Oh, he's sharing again.
Oh, there's one. This is one of the special outfits of the day. Go down lower. Cute. And this is the other one.
Okay.
This is what we have to deal with every day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kishan, for doing that.
That's funny.
Wish you all the best, Tim.
We all thank you for your years of service.
We're lucky to have you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Did you swim from Alcatraz?
I've done that swim multiple times, yeah.
Wow.
It's doable. They escaped.
That's right.
Okay. Moving on to the next person, Angelo Rovai. Tim is going to talk about Angelo.
Well, thank you for all that, Susie. That was quite a presentation there. I have no idea how I'm even going to follow that up. Other than Angelo has been with us for 2 years now. I don't know if all of you know Angelo. We actually went to school together. He's a couple years behind me in school, but Angelo used to have the muffler shop over on Prisma. And past couple of years ago, we were able to pull him into the fold of the sewer authority. He's been really, really good employee. He gets along well with everyone. He's really, taking it to heart, what he has to do on a day-to-day and making sure that everything's getting done and, protecting the receiving waters, make sure all the pumps and the pump stations at the member agencies and everything is working properly so that we keep everything in the system. And like I said, it's been 2 years that Angelo has been there now, and we're looking forward to him being there for quite a few more. We're hopeful. So
Congratulations, Angelo.
Yes.
Well,
Well done, Angie.
I want to say that I used to go to Angelo's shop and I wondered where it went. Now I have to blame Keishan and Tim.
there you go.
There you go.
Finding somebody who can work on vehicles who's talented is tough, but you guys were very fortunate to have Angelo. I've known Angelo. I didn't realize it was the same Angelo, but for decades, and he's an amazing guy.
We were extremely lucky that we were able to pull him in and get him on staff. So someone with his integrity and his work ethic, it's really nice to have someone like that as part of our staff.
Exactly.
Angelo, would you like to say anything? You're muted.
You're muted. No. Maybe he has a bad connection.
Maybe so.
Maybe he doesn't want to say anything.
We're happy to have you, Angelo.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
think there's a game on TV and he's probably watching it. Just kidding.
Good call.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item 2, public comment. Let's see, I'm going to be looking here to see if there are any hands raised.
I'd like to make a comment. Let me find my hand. There's my hand.
Is that something you could make during director's reports at the end?
I could, but I think the public should hear this because they don't tend, I'm not sure they stay through the meeting. I'm looking at the summary of proposed charges for sewer for Pacifica. And their proposed rate increases are for the next 5 years to increase it each year by 3.5%. And so the annual minimum rate will be right now it's $903 and it will go up to $1,072.
Wow.
In 5 years. Things that the other part that I found interesting is they have lots of additional information. I won't bore you with this, but they have what's called strength multipliers. And so a house, and most of them are at 1.0, but they have, and laundromats are less than 1, they're at 0.75. Cleaners are at 1.2. And restaurants with functioning grease traps are at 1.6. So they pay quite a bit more, and restaurants without functioning grease traps, and I think this is an important incentive, pay 1.8 of the strength factor. And I think it's something that maybe I've given this information to Clemens, but every agency may want to look into this and use their information. They are they've put in a new way of calculating use, and so it may be useful to get a hold of their studies and their calculations and see if they have application to the coast side here.
Is there a link that maybe you could send us?
I'll see if there is. I haven't seen one, but I'll call and get it tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I think it would be interesting to share, but that's not too much work.
No.
Okay.
No, but I did think giving people an incentive to have a functioning grease trap in dollars is a good plan.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay. Is that it for you, Catherine?
That's it.
All right. Greg, you're up next.
Well, by coincidence, I'm doing an article this week on the Pacifica sewer situation. And I spoke to one of the council members there last week. They have a more serious problem even than we do down here. And I guess I would ask a question for your consideration. Let me first make a qualifier. Included in that rate increase is a project involving a seawall and the preservation of the sewer main and plant in place. That's going to be subject to some significant dispute as opposed to making it a special assessment district for residents in the protected area or reimagining the plant in a different location. And of course, I think Sam also faces the challenge of reimagining the plant in a different location and, you know, what's the proper investment over the long term. I'll be happy to share my article. I do have some of the data you're looking for, Deb. So, you know, I can make that all available. But the point I wanted to ask about, and just for consideration, would it be beneficial to collaborate with Pacifica as coastside, protecting our natural resource, in getting money sooner? They're proposing to pay 4% interest. And it might be more than that because there's 1.5% insurance cost mentioned. I'm trying to get clarification whether that's included. That's a pretty high interest rate. And there's no mention of grants. And I don't get that at all. I mean, here we are on the cusp of everybody getting money. So I think your skills and the skills of the agency as a whole should be bent toward getting grant funding as much as possible. And I think if we combine with Pacifica, it would help. I don't know. Maybe we're in competition for Pacifica, but I just raise that as something to think about. And I have not forgotten the words of Lou Wall, one of the founders of the district up here in Montero, who said, we got 7/8 of the money from the feds and we forgot we'd have to replace the plant, which those words live with us today. Thanks.
You're muted, Chair.
Thank you, Greg. Look forward to seeing the info. Let's see who else. Keishan.
Yes, I raise my hand on behalf of Tim. We actually heard back from Angelo, and Tim would like to pass on the message to the board. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I got it. So Angelo texted me. Apparently, his computer that he's viewing from is rather old, so he can't respond. But he did want to let everyone know that he was very grateful, and he was thankful for all the kind words.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on to item 3, consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they'd like to pull? Other than that, I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the consent agenda, items 3A, 3B, and 3C.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
You can have it, Rick.
Yep.
We have a roll call, please.
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Arbach,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Chair Radek.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to regular business, item 4A, review and receive the financial report for Q2 fiscal year 21-22, budget versus actual.
Yep, thank you very much, Chair. The financial report for Q2 fiscal year 21-22, that is the budget versus actual, was discussed several times at the Finance Committee, and it was recommended that we bring it to the board for presentation. And the complete review is attached in the staff report, but we have Peter Medina from Mace Consulting here who's going to give us a short presentation. Over to you, Peter. I've given you control so that you can share your screen.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Kishan. Good evening, board. I'll try to make this quick. But yes, the report is part of our continuing effort to provide transparency. So this is the Q2 ended 12/31/2021. You have the board packet, so I will bring up the PowerPoint. All right. So sharing screen, here we go. And let's start the slideshow. Okay, so moving on. So as we talked about, just ongoing financial transparency from this viewpoint. This is what the Finance Committee, as well as the board, is used to seeing. It was developed about 2 years ago. So looking at our org codes 10102021 and 3000 series for environmental compliance, treatment, all these various areas which are grouped into the Tyler GL system. So that's what we're trying to provide in those categories, because as the Finance Committee can attest to, we have a number of GL items, and there's quite a bit of detail in there. So we've worked on trying to condense that and summarize the data as best we can. So revenue-wise, I said we bill and accrue all revenue. So that goes for O&M, collections, as well as infrastructure. Okay, so those assessments are sent out on a monthly basis, and we record those to revenue immediately. Collections, in terms of actual collection of funds, that happens throughout the month and sometimes a little bit later, but that income is recorded as accepted or as received at the time of billing. So at this point, 6 months worth of assessments are recorded in the GL. Okay. So going in through here, like I said, this is basically the revenue will all show 50%. Other income is LAIF interest income, and so that piece, or sorry, interest and dividend. Other income was budgeted to be much higher with that form of income was basically ended at the end of last fiscal year, but it didn't make it into the budget. So that's why we show such a large discrepancy there. So that's the only really unfortunate part for revenue. Okay, getting into expenses. All right, we show treatment first. Looking here, okay, we're about $300,000 over budget. About $60,000 of that is going to be capitalizable. So most of our capitalized expenditures are in the infrastructure org code, but some of them are captured in the treatment category. So I said we're gonna capture those and capitalize them at fiscal year end. Other large costs, there was the wastewater treatment plant capacity and treatment process review study. So I said that's the big item there for the miscellaneous professional services. There are also other categories which are going over budget, but if you look at it kind of from your report, that's $300,000 over budget for the quarter, 17% over, but for the entire year, 59%. So we're within striking range to hopefully reduce costs now that the plant upset is behind us. So we're hoping to make some progress there in Q3 and Q4. Okay. So once again, just more of the discussion piece from your board pack is more just a replication of that information. Okay. Now going to general, what you'll see here is basically professional services are about 20K over budget. Insurance premiums, so those are prepaid for the year. So we pay the entire premium at the beginning of the year, and so it's captured. The variance goes down as the year goes forward, but for Q1 and Q2, it's going to look like a bad variance. So that's the big piece there. What else do we have here? Yeah. So once again, more of that discussion piece here. Okay. Getting into collections. So once again, revenue, 50% once billed and recognized as revenue in the month that it is billed. So no issues there. On the expenditure side of things, you'll see basically we're all under budget. The main reason being in admin, we have a bit of, we've booked the adjustment in Q3 going through the budget process, basically the allocation of insurance costs going over to the collection side for those vehicles. The other big piece is in the capital area where out of Q2, the truck, which was budgeted for, had not been purchased or had been purchased, but had not been delivered yet. So we had not captured it. That was delivered in February. So that's the big variance that will go away in Q3. Yeah, once again, very poor timing with my words and PowerPoint. So good piece of news though. This is probably going to be one of my last times presenting this. George is probably going to be taking over this duty for me going forward. So I think for everybody's sake, it's going to be a better experience. Okay. Any questions? Wait, sorry. Thank you. There you go. All right.
Hands raised.
I'm going to do a stop share, please. Because for my view, I only see, four hands. Okay. So, but if you want me to bring it back up, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
Greg.
I noticed a variance on treatment expenses. Is that due to the upset? Can somebody speak to that?
So I would say,
sorry, Peter, go ahead.
No, well, you're probably do far more eloquently than I can, but yes, when you look at the major items as far as the out of balance, the big item there is the wastewater treatment plant capacity and treatment review study, $100,000. Well, $94,415. That was unbudgeted, so that contributes 1/3 to the over budget for the year. That was due to the upset plan.
Yeah, if I could clarify further, Greg, the plan upset is distributed within treatment expenses and environmental compliance expenses. The environmental compliance expenses, it's all the lab expenses, while in the treatment expenses, it's got the chemicals and it's got the Brown and Caldwell study.
Does that answer your question there, Greg?
Well, I guess I would like to see some kind of tally of what this has cost us over the last couple of years, including all aspects, but that's just a curiosity of mine.
Yep, we're keeping track of it and we can present it at our next meeting.
Sounds good. Barbara.
Well, just to respond to that point, the environmental compliance budget is already 118% of the whole year budget. Am I correct in that, reading that? Am I reading
Yes,
that right?
no, I didn't want to harp on that, whereas the treatment budget is within grasp for Q3 and Q4. That is not going to happen for environmental compliance. It's already doubled.
So, I mean, it's just something we should know. Just because it's not a great number doesn't mean we shouldn't know about it. And also, I understand that we're going to have a look at infrastructure spending, which is separate from the CIP, at a subsequent meeting. The fact that today, so this year to date, you're at 5%. Only 56,000 as of this report. Only $56,000 of the $2.4 million that the agencies have paid SAM for infrastructure projects has been spent. And so we are going to look at incomplete projects from previous years, including this current year, in the context of the new CIP that you are going to show us later tonight. So I don't need to go into all the details of it now. I just wanted to say we are going to take a look at that, right?
Yes, we are going to take a look at it. And just to drive home the point, the 5% what you are seeing right now is the expenses as of December 31st of last year. So in the past 2.5 months, a lot of expenditure has taken place, and that will be presented first to the Finance Committee. We did have a prelim presentation to the Finance Committee, as you're aware. Just for the knowledge of the public, I want to mention that we did discuss it with the Finance Committee in the last meeting, and there were some revisions required in the way we were presenting it. We are doing that, taking it to the next Finance Committee meeting, and after it gets clear to the Finance Committee, then we bring it to the board and show it to the entire board.
And we're not going to be making decisions tonight about the CIP. Tonight, we're going to get a really good look at what is being proposed for the year ahead's capital improvement program, correct?
I guess we could talk about it when we get to the agenda, please.
Okay.
It does, the item does say discuss and approve.
Correct.
I missed that. I would like to see us have this other analysis about the unspent funds from previous years before we start spending millions more dollars for additional programs. But I can set that aside and we can discuss it further in the CIP agenda item. Thank you.
Anybody else? I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, let's move on to item 4B, discuss and approve infrastructure plan for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, so this is the time of the year when we discuss the infrastructure plan for the next fiscal year. We normally bring it to the board, and after the board approves this, we plug in this number into the general budget, which gets discussed at several meetings moving on. So this infrastructure plan was discussed with the member agency managers a couple of weeks back. Maybe it was last week or the week before that. And it got cleared to present it to the board with certain minor changes, which I could explain to you later. But before that, I'd like to share my screen and go over a couple of slides where I can present to you the projects which we intend getting it approved for the next year. you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is the fiscal year for 2022. This is a capital improvement plan. Now, what is a capital improvement plan? A capital improvement plan generally includes all individual capital projects, equipment purchases, and major studies which SAM undertakes. We've been doing 20-year CIP, 5-year CIP, and a 1-year CIP in the past. But this at this meeting today, we're going to present only the CIP for 22-23, and we intend bringing the 5-year CIP at our next meeting, at the next board meeting. Now, SAM provides a working blueprint for sustaining and improving the coastal communities, wastewater conveyance, and the main aim is to protect public health and environment. So the CIP is prepared, keeping the strategic planning behind us, then using the financing capacity that the member agencies can provide. The information is obtained in a meeting with the member agency managers, and of course, with the physical development that has taken place. I'm not going to go through this in detail because you already have this in your packets. The detailed data sheets for each of these projects with the estimated costs have already been provided in the packet, but I'll walk you through these projects. Now, before we get there, the number one problem we want to address is the equipments that are working beyond the useful life. Now, here is the American Society of Civil Engineers guideline on wastewater components useful life. I want to bring to your attention to the two key categories: treatment plant and pumping stations, mechanical and electrical. SAM's treatment plant mechanical equipment has an average age of about 27 years compared to the useful life of 25 years if you take the higher end of the useful life as per the ASC chart which is provided. The situation is in fact more dire in Princeton Pump Station, which is a 40+ years old pump station and has not seen any major improvements since it was first built. In fact, it did come into the capital improvement plan in the first instance in 2013, if I remember right, in 2013, when Vivian Hussain, our interim general manager, presented it to the board. That was the priority at that point of time. And for various reasons, it didn't get approved or it didn't get built. Now, besides equipment that are overdue for replacement, we are also considering improvement plans resiliency for unexpected events such as power outage, natural hazards, and potential vandalism or sabotage. So that's in short the CIP projects that we have selected for this year. So let's go to the first project, which is the replacement of the Princeton Pump Station.
Can I just say?
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I just want to comment. I am supportive of these projects, and I am not. I think it's important that you've done such a good job of reviewing and coming up with what we need. But that useful life chart, I went and looked. I was interested in it because I'm interested in the whole concept of useful life and how that gets determined. So I went to that study you mentioned, and in there's very little that's specific at all about how they came up with those numbers. So I went to the document that they cited, which is a federal government document by the EPA, and it pretty much says useful life is just an easy shorthand, and you need to evaluate the condition of your equipment and the age and the quality of the equipment and maintenance and everything else in terms of useful life. There's no just numbers that you can pick that says this is going to be good till X year. So I appreciated that you sent us that document, but I spent quite a while looking at it and looking at its sources. And I commend you for doing a good job of looking at what needs to be done based on the actual condition of our equipment. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Director Dai. You hit the nail on the head. This is, after all, just a guideline. The very fact that Princeton Pump Station has run is still running at 40 plus years old, clearly says that we need to do a condition assessment of all these equipments before we take a decision for replacement, because some can last much longer, but this is just a guideline.
Thank you.
So moving on further, the Princeton pump station was constructed in 1979, and it's gone 18 years beyond its useful life. There is no alternative for pumping sewage out of Princeton area other than the Princeton pumps. And this pump station is an environmentally sensitive area. The existing pumps are very hard to access, maintain. These are in confined space, and replacing it is imminent as of now. So replacing the existing pump station with a package submersible pump station is the project that we are projecting right now. The surge tank, as you see the picture on the right-hand side, is not in operation since almost early 2000s, I would say. And as all of you know, the surge tank is really helpful in protecting the force main. We've seen that case in the Portola pump station, where the surge tank was not operating for many years, which caused damage to the Portola force main, resulting in cavitation, and we had to replace the lines. Well, in the case of Princeton force main, we have done a condition assessment. We found that it is good, but nevertheless, the surge tank also needs to be replaced. And then a part of this project is also installing new pump station bypass system, which means that if we have any issues with the pumps, we should be able to bypass the sewer and then take it out from the wet well. So this is the first project which we have indicated. The next one is the wastewater treatment plant security upgrade. As you know, there's a lot of cyber security and plant security, which is going on everywhere these days. That's the key word. So we'd like to get into it in full depth to protect SAM's physical assets from vandals, saboteurs, and natural hazards. You all know that the plant system works on a SCADA system, which is a supervisory control and data acquisition system, which is purely computer-based. So it is very easy for people to hack into any computer software. So we'd like to move forward with this and provide security for our computer systems, plus also for our pump stations and the plant in terms of gates and other stuff that we have thought of. So we will assess and implement the security improvements. We'll bring it back to the board at a much later date once this project gets approved for the next financial year. This project is purchasing a new backup portable generator. We conduct a lot of maintenance of the plant. For example, we do the bus duct maintenance, wherein we shut down everything, including the generator. At that time, we have to do we have to rent out a generator, and we also need a portable generator for getting a couple of things running, like, for example, the aeration blowers or the chemical tanks. And what happens is, in times of crisis, we would definitely need a generator, because in terms of emergency or in terms of crisis, it's very hard to find a generator quickly. So it's good to have our own portable generator, wherein we can plug it in for areas where it is important to keep it going, wherein we cannot afford to just shut it down completely. Like, for example, the aeration blowers I mentioned, and like the chemicals part of it. So this new generator, what we intend buying, will be trailer mounted for ease of moving. It'll be driven by a diesel engine, and it can be used at a number of locations.
Just a quick question. It seems like a really good idea. So would you have diesel fuel available at all those spots that
Yes.
would potentially be moved to?
Yes, we do have a big diesel reservoir at the plant. Plus, we will ensure that it's available at various locations if we have to move it.
Thanks. Just wondering.
So this is a continuation of the projects from 2021. The board did approve the influent pumps in a couple of meetings earlier. We've gone ahead and placed the order for the pumps, but we are in the process of installing it, and the installation of these pumps will probably go into the next year. And therefore, we are not asking for any dollar amount for this for the 22-23. It's a continuation from the existing fiscal year. So this is replacing chains and flights, collector gears and wheels and primary clarifiers. We have 3 primary clarifiers, and the chains, flights, collector gears and wheels have not been replaced since 1990s. We've been doing service. These are continuously moving components. These are gears which have gone past the useful life, mechanical components, and we do service them, but it's good to replace it completely with the chain, collector gears, and the wheels which are not shown in this picture. So replacing the scum pump and motor, we do not have a spare for this scum pump and motor. This is the only scum pump and motor, and these are at least 7 years beyond the useful life. There's no redundancy, as I mentioned. Failure of this pump could disrupt the primary clarification process. So we intend replacing the progressive cavity pump, motor, and other appurtenances.
Will you then have a redundant pump?
We would first like to keep this, replace this pump and then have a redundant pump later on. We do not know how much it's going to cost at the time when we actually go for buying it. So this is replacing a grid pump 1 and 2. We have 2 grid chambers and we have 3 grid pumps and motors. So therefore, one of them is redundant, but we'd like to replace grid pump and grid pump 1 and 2. Pump 1 actually goes to the chamber 1, pump 2 goes to the chamber 2, and there is one other redundant pump which can be used for either of those chambers. So the idea is to replace pumps, motors, and appurtenances for grid pump 1 and 2. So this is to replace the primary sludge pumps and motors 1 to 3. We have 3 primary clarifiers and we have 5 pumps. So these 3 pumps and motors are only for 2 chambers. You have primary sludge pump 1, 2, and 3, which can be used only for primary clarifier 1 and primary clarifier 2. The primary clarifier 3 is wedded to the sludge pump 4 and 5, which is not being taken up for the next fiscal year. So by taking this primary sludge pump 1, 2, and 3, we would have 1 redundancy for the 2 primary clarifiers that we'll be operating. And to give you an idea, typically we operate 2 primary clarifiers on any day. During storm events or during winter season, we typically operate all the 3 clarifiers. At that point of time, we would need all the pumps. So this is to replace the secondary clarifier drive mechanism. The drives have not been serviced since 1990s because we have no redundancy. This drive, there are 2 clarifiers, and we typically operate 1 clarifier, but when the demand is more during storm events or during plant upsets, we operate both the clarifiers. So when we operate both the clarifiers, there is no redundancy at all. So we have these drives which have gone past the useful life. The spare parts are difficult to obtain, and they usually have a long lead time. The intent is to replace these secondary clarifier drives 1 and 2. So this project is a continuation of the existing project. We did place an order for effluent pumps 1 in the present fiscal year, and the next fiscal year we intend to go for the next for the second effluent pump. And at a typical point of time, we operate all 3 effluent pumps during storm events. Otherwise, as you all know, if it's normal and there are no storm events, then we really don't operate the effluent pumps. It goes by gravity to the ocean. This is replacing number 3 water pumps. There are 3 water pumps, and we do have 1 redundant pumps. Typically, we operate 2 water pumps, but these have gone past their useful life, and these are very important functions because they distribute water to various areas like the rotary drum thickener, the belt press, the chemicals, and various other places. So these are a key to many processes within the treatment plant. So the summary of it is the total cost for the proposed CIP projects is about 3.17 million. And this will allow SAM to replace equipment that are working beyond their useful life, improve reliability of its wastewater infrastructure, reduce possibilities of any interruption, and improves resiliency against unexpected events. So, were any events? Any questions?
I see Greg has a question. Go ahead, Greg.
I don't want to jump the presentation, but in the write-up, there was discussion of alternatives with less expenditures. And I remember I found myself playing junior businessman wondering which of these projects I would defer. Like, could you replace 2 out of 3 pumps instead of all 3? And then I realized what I was missing. When I first saw Kishan, it was years ago when he and Bev Marshall presented a 20-year CIP, which was the context, and it was easier to see what would happen. But right now we're faced with a 1-year CIP, and it's hard to tell, kind of like the domino effect or those games as a kid where you push one thing down and another one pops up. You just can't see what adjustments now would mean for later years. And that made me consider $2.5 million is about 1/40th of the value of SAM. Last we did the analysis, it was $100 million in 2019 money, I think. So $2.5 million is 1/40th, which says on average everything at the plant would last 40 years and you'd smoothly replace it. But I just get the concern that we're like the snake that swallowed a pig or something, and we've got this big bulge coming up. And we're using such a short time horizon here for capital planning, we can't see the bulge coming. So I'm very worried, given the age of the plant, that we don't have a smooth 40-year horizon, that we really have a big bump coming and we can't see it. So while I don't have any particular quarrel with this plan, and I really do want to see that portable generator, I think that's like really important, because remember, we had electrical problems at the last overflow. But I wonder about the rest of the context, and I really would encourage a longer term view of things. So thanks.
Kishan, do you want to talk now about the alternatives identified in the staff report? Or do you want to, or should people ask their questions now?
Maybe we'll let people ask questions and we can address that because that's already in the packet.
Okay. Catherine, go ahead, and then Matthew and Barbara.
Catherine, you're muted.
There we go. I want to thank Kishan and Gabriel for a fabulous tour of the plant when I stopped in sort of unannounced on Friday and said, what's this thing on the agenda? What are we doing? And my first words are to Tim and the entire crew. You guys have been doing an amazing job keeping this huge, complex thing that is on the verge of breakdown running. Some of the things that I saw that need to be and are being replaced should have been done 15 years ago. And I think, Greg, we are in the middle of that hump. We just can't see it because this stuff has been going. There were pieces, electrical boxes that were rusted and wiggly and falling apart. There were electrical cables that were corroded, all bubbled, and so there was bare wires there. There are just so many details that need so desperately to be taken care of, and they needed to be taken care of a while back. So, but my thoughts are that first of all, we have a remarkable staff. And the fact that they have been able to keep this running and prevent us from having fines and regulatory interference on all of this I'm just overwhelmed by. I can't say thank you in a strong enough fashion. You guys are awesome. And so for that, I think that this, as Keishan is saying, Greg, this is all stuff that should have been done, as I said too, in the past, and we've got more of this coming. This deferred maintenance stuff is bad news. It costs us. It costs us a lot of money. And I have asked Keishan to start thinking about how much deferred maintenance has really cost us, and it's been incredibly expensive. The bus duct a couple years ago was an enormous expense, unexpected. And fortunately, we're in a time where we have computers and we can keep lists and checklists and so on. And I think that I hope other people availed themselves of the tour that Keishan gave me, and if you haven't, please make time to do it. It's scary how quickly things could fall apart when they're in the shape they are. So thank you.
Director Clark?
Yeah, I have a couple questions about the particular projects. The 6.01 improved the treatment plant cybersecurity. It's mentioned several times that this will be both the computer systems, the entire IT system that keeps things going and keeps things coordinated. And it also mentions the physical plants. It seems like rather a lot of money if it's all just directed toward, I don't know, new software, upgraded security measures within the IT system. But are there physical changes included here at the plant or in the collection system? Because then it seems like it's not enough money at all.
Yes, it's definitely not enough money. We've received a technical memorandum from a third-party consultant doing the complete assessment of the security, and that goes way beyond 300,000. Maybe the cost close to about $750,000. That's the entire plant security. So it's being done in phases, and this was felt the most important. So we want to set aside some money, and then we can bring the report back to the board at a later stage when we are prior to implementing it, and then we can decide what priorities to choose from the recommendations which are being given by the consultant. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. And then I wanted to ask about the portable generator, which does sound like a very good idea, but maybe you're going to discuss this when you get to the alternatives, but at least one of those tables shows it crossed out. And that 110,000, to get to the 2.9 number that is arrived at on that sheet, that $100,000 has to be taken out. So are you going to discuss that when you go through the alternatives, or can we get a yes or a definite yes or no on whether that new generator is included in the budget number?
Yep, we can talk of it once the questions are all addressed, and then we can see what number we are looking at, and we can decide what projects we should take. Why don't we discuss this in a few minutes from now?
All right, thanks.
Director Dye?
Yes, I think these are all needed projects, and I agree that we need to fund repairs for a lot of the equipment in the system. I'm concerned that I know that there's a commitment to talk about this funding issue, but this year, the projections, and this may be a little low, may have been revised up since I saw the chart, for what will be spent at least through the third quarter of this year is about $600,000 of the $2.4 million that we've paid 75% of at this point. And it seems likely that projects from the previous year were also not completed. So I'm looking forward, and maybe we can approve this tonight, but also talk about the funding and the payment schedule as part of the overall budget process. But I think it's really important for us, and we haven't been doing it, is looking at what projects have been funded and which of those have been completed over the last few years. So it looks like not very many from this year, at least some are in process, equipment is being purchased, but then those are going to take months to complete. So let's make sure that we have a reasonable set of expectations of the work that's going to be done that we're going to be funding as agencies, because we do commit to our ratepayers we're going to have to raise our rates for some of this. And so let's make sure that the work that we're funding is actually practical to get done in the time frame as is expected. So I'm not necessarily expecting a big discussion of that tonight, but I do think it's part of the overall look at this.
Yep, Director Dye, it's true that some of the projects which have been approved in infrastructure a couple of years back have not been done for various reasons, but are still in the pipeline, which are getting done. But it's also true that there are several projects which are not in the infrastructure plan, which have also been executed. And where does the money come from? It probably comes from infrastructure plan. And I don't know.
Let's keep track of it is all I'm saying.
We are keeping,
understand where we are.
Exactly. We are keeping track of it, but in the finance committee meeting a couple of meetings back, we decided that the committee decided that staff shouldn't be spending time going back 5 years or 10 years back to find out what all projects are there.
2 years. Let's go 2 years. This year and last year, just 2 years.
Fine. So my suggestion is we discuss it in the finance committee, complete details of what to be done with the remaining amount for infrastructure and how we need to do that moving forward. And then we can bring it to the board for discussion.
All right. Because I want to see us get these projects accomplished and make sure that the expectation that what we're funding is practical to get done in the time frame that's laid out. Thanks.
I would just say that it's, looks to me, and we've had this discussion, that a lot of the issues are, supply chain, increased costs, because of inflation, just scarcity of parts and things. So a lot of it is, I think, out of our control.
Right.
So it's a matter of, I think, waiting in some cases. And there may be projects where we just want to shift funds, I'm not sure, but I agree with you that we need to take a look and see where we are, over that 2-year period. So Kishan, could you just run down the alternatives for the public?
Yeah. So excuse me. So the last year's infrastructure budget, which is actually this fiscal year, was about 2.478 million. And this was discussed with the member agencies, with the member agency managers in a meeting, and was decided that maybe we should look at the escalation factor, which is based on California Construction Cost Index. Now, the California Construction Cost Index sheet has been provided in the packet. And looking at it, typically, February is a month when we prepare the budgets, we get the prices and all that. So looking at February of last year and February of this year, we see that there is an escalation of about 16.8% compared to last year. And we know that it's going to get worse moving forward. The prices are going up. So using that index from 2.478, it came to about close to $3 million. And when we reached out to the member agency managers and told them that this is what it's coming to, the managers felt that a lower number of 2.675 is what the board should consider for procurement. That's about 6% increase, because they were specifically concerned about any increase affecting their rate structure. But with 2.675, we saw that not many projects would move forward, and therefore staff said that instead of a 3.17 million, maybe we could do with a 2.9 million, and a spreadsheet providing the projects which would probably get reduced has also been provided in the packet. meaning that the quantities, we could go with two options. We could either reduce the quantity of pumps and motors which we are planning to buy, or alternately procure the pumps and motors and install it in the next fiscal year. But this decision we'll be able to take at the time of ordering, which will be only in the next fiscal year, because we really don't know what the prices would be at that point of time. So staff has suggested that we could possibly reduce from 3.17 to 2.9 million. And yes, Director Clark brought up a good statement that one of the projects which has been deleted is a portable genset, which is 110,000. So at that point of time, the alternate is to go ahead with the present practice of renting the portable generator. So, which is possible, while it will be difficult to rent pumps and motors or, to do without those pumps and motors. And that's why this project was chosen for deletion when we jump back to 2.9. Does that make it clear, Director Clark? You're muted.
Muted.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine.
Thank you. I don't know why I listened to financial analysis. And what Kishan was just saying about the cost of construction is certainly echoed in what I've been hearing by other analysts. And I was listening to a couple different shows today, and we're in for some really scary, this inflation is, according to these guys, not temporary, and it's going to be very tough, which is their way of saying prices are going to be going up more than we like to think. One was talking about increasing homelessness. And my concern is that if we postpone these projects, they're only going to cost us more. And it's not going to be available. And so it's little bits of more, but instead of 110,000, maybe in 2 years, the generator will be 150. We have to come up with the extra 40. I really hope that this board and can talk to our managers and our ratepayers and say, we're trying to buckle down for some long, hard times, and we're trying to get this construction that we should have done some years ago when prices were cheaper. We need to get it done now before prices get to be more expensive. And so it makes me very nervous to hear about postponing things when they're big ticket items. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, just to give an idea to the board, when Vivian presented her budget in 2013, and when she had the Princeton pump station as one of the items on the budget, she projected about $840,000 for the Princeton pump station. That was way back in 2013, 2014. And today, I'm projecting 1.263. We really don't know how much it's going to cost us at the time of executing the project. So the prices have gone up.
So you're talking about the price has doubled in 8 years?
Yes. It is increasing exponentially.
So I think it would be helpful to focus discussion on the alternatives. So if the representatives of the member agencies could just discuss, from a policy perspective, I'm assuming you had conversations with your GMs about the alternatives. So why don't we focus discussion there? Be helpful to Barbara.
I think I'm prepared to support the higher level. The difference is not that much. Again, my issue is making sure that the money doesn't go and then there are hangups and things don't get ordered and don't get implemented and the money piles up. But in terms of our action plan for what needs to be done at the plant, the difference between these two numbers, to me, is not significant enough to make me not want to support it, as long as we'll talk some of the funding issues. I think we're going to do a rate study, and this is a case I think we will have to make to our residents that these are things that we need to do as a responsible agency.
When you say higher number, are you talking about the 2.9 that represents the cost escalator, or are you talking about 3.1?
I'm talking about the 3.1. I mean, I think the portable generator is important. And I actually think we should look at some of these timing things that replacing I do actually think the idea of replacing the grit pumps, purchasing them in the year ahead and then planning to fund the installation in the following year is something that needs to be looked at. Because in the past, there's a lot of money piled up in infrastructure that has been, I guess, committed to projects, but hasn't been spent. And so that's where I'm coming from. But I want to separate that. That's a separate issue to me than the issue of, are these things that need to be done? And I am convinced that these things need to be done. I guess I would like to say that I would support the 2.9 plus the portable generator, because I think it doesn't make any sense to keep renting a generator for a number of reasons. Number one, that costs money. Number two, you might find yourself unable to find one in the midst of an emergency, and that could be a big problem. So I guess I would support option 2 with the generator added back in. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'd like to ask Matthew if he could chime in. I think it would be good if we can, get where agencies are coming down. Matthew, would you like to weigh in on this now?
Yeah, I have talked to our GM and assistant GM, and what we all need to acknowledge, unfortunately, is that this year and probably for several in the future, it's really a crapshoot to estimate these costs because of the supply line problems, because of the worldwide, the economies are not booming, and the latest blow, I'll call it, is that the federal government is now talking about, a new Buy America Act, which can't do anything but make things more expensive, because I have no idea what percentage of what we're planning to spend goes to materials that are made overseas, but it will be more expensive when this new law comes into effect as well. So we just have to recognize this. I think the case has been made that the virtually every one of these projects really needs to get going now. So I'm ready to support certainly the 2.9, and as Director Dye just said, then include the portable generator in there as well, and that takes us over a little over 3.
You're muted. You're muted.
Where are you, Catherine?
I am right along
There you are.
with Granada. As I said in my comment earlier, we need to spend this money now because we're going to be doubling it in a few years if we don't spend it now. And I think all of the gasoline prices at the pump are a good case in point. And we're going to be seeing our PG&E prices go up.
Yep.
I've heard 10% for electricity. We're seeing a whole lot, and these just translate. Diesel, the cost of transportation of all of our equipment is now, I've seen diesel at close to $7 a gallon. that means all the associated costs with that are going up. I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm not sorry. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we've got Keishan and Tim and the crew who really understand what needs to be done. They live with this stuff. They know that duct tape doesn't work, and we've actually gone up to gaffer's tape recently. Tongue in cheek, Tim. But these things need to be dealt with, and we also need to be looking at, as this board, I think, making sure that we support a good preventative maintenance program. And that takes having skilled crew on staff to be doing that. And painting doesn't look like a really important thing until you see the rust that's bubbling out underneath where the painting was not done. So I'm with Granada on this, and I thank both Barbara and Matthew. We're all on board on this.
Rick, did you want to comment?
Yes. These projects all seem very important to me. I would rather take a hit now and do them all rather than wait. I think Catherine and Matthew and Barbara have all made the point that there's nothing on that list that can be taken off. So I would support the entire package, I think, right now.
So Harvey, you're kind of late to the game here. You just decided to join the meeting this afternoon. I don't know if you have an opinion here, but feel free to weigh in.
From what I've heard, I think it's prudent to actually make the expenditures now rather than wait. So I'm on board with Granada and Montera.
Yeah, so had a little bit of a disagreement with our public works director, wanted to keep it at the 2.9, the cost escalator. But I agree with my fellow directors. It seems to me unwise to hold back. Who knows if there'll be a run on diesel generators, depending on what happens with this war effort in Europe. Potentially, more inflation. So I'm coming down with my fellow directors on this and supporting the 3.1. And there's no other comments. I would entertain a motion in a second to give that direction.
I'll make the motion.
What's the number that we're voting on?
3.1.
3,009,397 to be precise.
Thank you.
And that would include the generator.
Yes.
But does it include deferring the installation of those pumps?
That will be decided only at the time of ordering, because right now we do not know what the prices would be.
All right, and we can look at that issue in terms of when we look at the financial.
Yeah, keep it in mind that these are projects that you are approving only for the budget part of it. As and when we are ordering the projects, we bring it back to the board again to get approval.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
We have a roll call, please.
Director Dyke?
Aye.
Director Lohman?
Yes.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Arbach?
Yes.
Director Slater-Carter?
Yes.
Chair Ruddock?
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you for all the useful information associated with the staff report. I found that to be very helpful.
Thank you.
And let me add that I'm sure Keishan's offer to give a tour of what's going on at the plant is still standing. And it's worthwhile, because not only will you see what needs to be done, you can see what has been done. And in the last 2 years, a lot of good work has been done, and we're really making progress.
Yeah. Item number 5, General Manager's Report.
Nothing specific. We'll have a detailed report at the next meeting. If staff is here to answer any questions or any clarifications, if anybody needs anything on any items.
Okay, item 6, Attorney's Report.
Yes, good evening, Director. Just a real quick update. At the last meeting, we talked about AB 361, the ability to continue having virtual meetings. Still don't know if the governor is going to extend the March 31st expiration of the state of emergency. Seems like he's probably not going to, but you never know. So if he does not, the consensus in my office appears to be, you go back to the regular framework, which is you can still meet remotely and you can still do what we're doing right here, which is we can still let the public participate through Zoom. But if directors are not going to be physically present for the board meeting, then you have to go through the normal remote noticing process where you say, Director X will be participating from the following address, then you have to post a notice of that address. And in theory, if the public shows up there and wants to participate, they have the right to do that. So just, I'm monitoring that. Some of my colleagues are monitoring it as well. So, and some of you at the city and your agencies, you may be, getting advice as well. But it's something a lot of people are watching, and we'll keep you posted on the latest, greatest.
So I heard from the City County Association of Governments lobbyists at our last CCAG meeting that they expect it to be extended till June.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's new information. We didn't have that.
That's what I heard, but I don't know if it's true.
Okay. All right. Well, very dynamic situation. I think it's changing by the day.
Right. And so I had talked to Kishan about maybe putting an item on the March 28th agenda. Might just be a placeholder, but to have a discussion about do we want to, return to some level of face-to-face meetings. You probably saw the article in the Review. I know that at Half Moon Bay we're talking about potentially May. But again, it is an evolving situation. So we'll put an item on the agenda and see where it goes in the next couple of weeks.
That seems prudent, Chair Ruddick.
Yeah. Certainly my impression that the public would prefer that we continue to do it via Zoom. So I was surprised about that editorial, because certainly
I think it depends who you ask.
The person who had written the letter to the editor that the editor was responding to does not even live on the coast side anymore. He lives in the Sierra Nevada foothills and has for 8 years. So not likely to be a candidate to come to our meetings. We've had more public engagement via Zoom than we ever had having meetings at the TED Advox. There's no question about it.
The place where there's been a lot of consternation, I'll keep this real brief, but school boards. So there's been some frustration from parents who wanted to actually, look people in the eye and, and talk to people. And Zoom is different in that respect. I mean, you're still speaking, but it's not quite the same as the in-person effect. And so, but I think from what I hear on the water and wastewater district side, I think you're right. I think a lot of the people in the public really like this framework because it's an easy way to participate.
Yeah, and I would guess that school boards might be reluctant to have in-person meetings, given like the abuse and civil behavior that's happening at a lot of these meetings, personal attacks, all that stuff. And I'm only guessing that with rising gas prices and rising all prices and, the culture wars, that conceivably could become even more dangerous. So, who knows?
Well, anyway, to be continued. That's it for my attorney's report. And I guess we'll have a good discussion on the 28th.
Yeah. So anybody have a director's report? I just wanted to check in with Kishan. Do we have a new planning committee meeting scheduled to look over the electrification paper update? Not electrification, but the updating the information on the electrical system.
The reliability study, I haven't received any information from the members, but maybe I will directly bring it to the board in the next meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. Number 8, topics for future board consideration. Anything there? Okay. So item 9, convene in closed session. So we're actually going to schedule a special meeting for the general manager's performance evaluation because of Director Penrose had something that was very precipitous and could not attend tonight's meeting. So I guess we'll be getting a doodle poll scheduling that. And I don't know if there's anything else for discussion on any of those items.
I don't. Christian might.
No, I don't have to. I don't have any, Chair.
Okay. Well, then I guess we could adjourn this meeting, and you'll be hearing soon on a doodle poll for the special meeting. So thanks everyone for a good meeting tonight.
Yep. Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Harvey.
Good night.